Welcome back to Business and Leisure as we resume with our segment Embassy Row featuring U.S. Ambassador to the country, His Excellency Ambassador Philip Goldberg. As you may have noticed, if there are things that Filipinos value most, these are education and sports. Are you aware of exchange programs or scholarship programs between our two countries?
I am, because many of them are sponsored by the embassy in our public affairs section. So we have a lot of educational programs that go on. There's the famous Fulbright program, which is a very important and famous exchange that the United States has with many countries, but the Philippines is really foremost among them. And so we've had about 3,000 of the Fulbrighters since the program started in 1948. It's one of the oldest, as I say, of the Fulbright scholarship programs. We send young people to the United States, about 50 a year at the high school level through the Kennedy Lugar exchanges. We have the Hubert Humphrey Fellowships for slightly older students to study government and public service. So we have an array of different programs that we administer from here in the embassy. And so if people who are watching are interested, they should contact the Education USA advisor here at the embassy, and you can find the information on our website or our Facebook page how to get in touch.
You mentioned about NBA, and in recent times we have had popular NBA players visit the country. Do you think we can embark on sports programs centering on basketball for the Filipino NBA lovers?
Well, there's so much going on with basketball in the Philippines. I don't know how much of a government assist it needs. You know, LeBron James was here this year, well now last year, and Stephen Curry was here. They come in and out under the auspices of the NBA and in a kind of private sector capacity. So in some ways we don't really need to get too involved, but it's a nice way of highlighting, especially in some of the communities that don't have ready access to sports facilities, like the people with disabilities or young people from struggling communities. We can help in that regard, and that's what we focus more on. Because for the public, you know, they have an NBA store, an NBA cafe. You've got the PBA and great college basketball rivalries, and so I think you've got that covered.
On the leisure side, Mr. Ambassador, what destinations in the Philippines have you visited? And which of these destinations do you think have been underrated, but you would, by personal choice, recommend as a destination?
I think that there are a lot of places in the Philippines that are not as well known to Americans because let's face it, there's a great distance to travel for people coming here. And so I think if there's a natural inclination to go to a beach, you can find a beach in Mexico and elsewhere, and people might not venture as far abroad to come to the Philippines just for a beach vacation. But I can tell them that there are some spectacular places here. The beaches in Palawan. I've been to beaches in Bohol, which are very special. And there you can combine it with some other activities, historical activities. I know some of the churches were damaged, the Spanish-era churches during the earthquake a few years ago, but some of them have come back and been restored, and so that's a nice activity to supplement also doing some diving or beach time. Palawan has the underground river, which is really unusual. I got the chance to go there and it was quite spectacular. As I mentioned to you, I love Baguio, and it has a great American history to it because we helped build it during the early American period here. So with Daniel Burnham, the same architect who designed Chicago in the United States. Again, for us and for many Americans who come to visit, there are some very special places from World War II, like the American Military Cemetery, the largest World War II military cemetery anywhere in the world, larger than any single cemetery in Europe, Corregidor, a famous place for American and Filipino military history. Bataan also, and I've already mentioned Baguio. So again, it's really something that people can see part of our history here as well as Filipino history.
Now, the United States of America remains as the top favorite destination for Filipino tourists. With the present less stringent visa requirements, do you have more Filipino visitors to your country now compared to, say, 10 years ago?
Yes, actually it's up over the last 10 years. We don't know exactly, you know, there are people who go to visit family also, and it may not be tourism in the sense of going to see Broadway shows or the monuments in Washington, D.C., or the great cities on the West Coast like San Francisco. I can't tell you exactly where all of them are going. What I can tell you is that there are more Filipinos traveling to the U.S. over that time. It's up about 30% during that period of time.
And to cap this interview, Mr. Ambassador, with the Philippines presently embroiled in an international controversy regarding territorial rights, and with the United States consistently assuring our country that, like in the past, we would still stay shoulder to shoulder as brothers in facing adverse challenges, how and how far will this assurance of affinity go?
Well, President Obama, who was here just recently for the APEC leaders meeting, and who had been here earlier in April of 2014, I think put it best, which is that our treaty commitment under the Mutual Defense Treaty is ironclad. We don't talk about hypotheticals and what might happen and what would precipitate invoking our treaty commitments. That's not a healthy thing to do. But what is clear is that we are allies, and we will stay with each other, as you put it, shoulder to shoulder during times of crisis. And you know, I think that's already been shown in many instances, and we have a very strong defense and security relationship. We have exercises every year that focus not just on issues like maritime security, the West Philippine Sea, the South China Sea, but also humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. When you think about what happened in Leyte in 2013 with Typhoon Yolanda, we had practiced a lot of that with our colleagues from the AFP and the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police. So we had an idea of how to do things that probably advanced our ability to actually carry out some of the initial relief when our forces came in to help. So we do the exercises, we have that going on. We have also donated excess defense articles to the Philippines. There is some cost involved for the Philippines in restoring and bringing things up to a certain standard and transporting equipment here. But it's a sign when we donate equipment and put the Philippines at the top of the list for that equipment that we highly value the Philippines' efforts to build a minimum credible defense, and also because it's a strong ally of the U.S. So those are things that we do on a constant basis. We have the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which will allow us to do more in carrying out our defense relationship. So all of those things combined, I think, offer a very good way for us to continue this very strong relationship.
Now, as we end this episode of Embassy Row, would you have any message to our viewers relevant to promoting closer relationship between our two countries?
Well, there are programs for people to travel to the U.S. We have our International Visitors Program, where we identify people to go to the U.S. to either look at a particular work discipline or to see a particular part of the U.S. system. So there are programs. People should go to our website and to our Facebook page and take a look and see what's out there. My message is simple. As we're here in 2016, We have had a great historic relationship, a very rich history. It's had its ups and downs, let's face it, but we're in the 21st century now, and we have 21st century interests and issues that we focus on. We focus on climate change now, for example, and issues that are very important for the Philippines in maritime security, business, infrastructure, good governance, anti-corruption. All of these things are new issues that we focus on through our Partnership for Growth and through other avenues of our assistance. So what I would say to the public watching is that this is a new relationship in a way, based on a solid foundation of friendship over a long time, and based on a people-to-people relationship with 3.5 million Filipino Americans, 250,000 Americans who live here, that helps enrich even further the ties between our two countries and the numbers of people going back and forth between the two nations. So in 2016, I would say our alliance, our relationship is as relevant as ever. It's still important to both countries. It's in our mutual interest, but it's also now almost organic because of the people-to-people relationship. So I want to wish everyone a happy 2016.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and may we likewise wish you and the American people a happy and peaceful 2016.
Maraming salamat po.
It has been our privilege to share with you here on Embassy Row our interview with the Ambassador of the United States of America, His Excellency, Mr. Philip Goldberg.